In this tutorial, I will show you the 3 usages of the super keyword in Java. I already showed 6 usages of the this keyword, so check that out if you need to, and let's get started. The first usage of the super keyword is used to refer to parent class instance variable, and I'll show you what I mean by example. So we have a class animal, and it has its instance variables called species, and it has a method. So when we extend the animal and create a dog, because dog is an animal, the animal class becomes a superclass to the dog class. And now when we want to reference the superclass instance variable or the parent class instance variable, we use the super keyword like this. And let's show you what I mean. So we have two same names for a variable. As you can see, species in animal and species in dog. And what do we do when we want to access both of them? If we just say species, it will access the default class. And if we need to use this one, we need to use super.species. And in here, in this method, as you can see, we just print the current species and the default species. And in the main, when we create the object and call the method and run the program, you can see that our first species is dog, as you can see here. And this corresponds to this. And our second is default, as you can see, this is this. So super.species is default, and if we change this to 1, 2, 3 and run print, you can see that the dog remains the same and the super.species is 1, 2, 3. So this is a really nice usage of the super keyword, and they don't actually need to have the same name. So if you have, let's say, an int equal to 2000 and you want to print it, let's just copy this and print super dot, what did I call it? Okay, let's call it A, and print it. You can see that it gets printed as well, but in this case we don't need to use the super because they don't have the same name, but for the readability purposes you can do it. As you can see, 2000 again. And let's go to the next usage. Another nice usage of the super keyword is that we can invoke parent class method, as you can see here. So in our parent class, we have a method called super method, and it prints I'm super. And by default, when the dog class extends the animal, it gets this method. And then we come here and say, okay, let's override this method to do something else. And then we say, okay, when we call the super method on the dog object, it will do something else. And as you can see here, it prints I am not super anymore. So if you were to call it to animal object, it would print this. And if you were to call it to dog object, it would print this. And in here we have a method called super, and it calls the super method and the super method. And then we create an object here and call that method and run it, you will see what happens. As you can see here, the first method that gets called is actually this one from the animal class. And the second that gets printed is actually this one over here that we created. So if you override the method from the parent class and you still need to access it, you can use the super keyword like we just did here. Let's go to the next usage. The third usage of the super keyword is used to invoke the parent class constructor. Let me show you what I mean. We have an animal constructor here, and it only takes one parameter. It's ground, flying, water. So we know, does the animal live on the ground? Is it a bird? Is it flying? Or is it a fish? Does it live in the water? And in this constructor, we just initialize the value. And now when we come to the dog, and of course each dog has ground, flying, water because it extends the animal class. And now the good thing about the super keyword is that we can reuse these constructors. So when we say super and pass it this ground, flying, water, we actually go here and reuse this constructor, which is really useful if you have a lot of constructors and a lot of parameters. And then we just say this name is equal to this name, and in here we print the dog. And now when we create the dog with ground and name Rex, and let's remove this and call print dog and run the program, we can see that the values actually got initialized the way we wanted them to be initialized, because this super keyword actually calls this constructor. So the third usage is really useful and it is used a lot. You will see it throughout your coding journey. And those were all the three usages of the super keyword in Java. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.